Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. We just wrapped up our interview with Rabbi Daniel Lapin. Anthony, what was a takeaway that you had?
I would say it's hard to state one because he had so many, and he does a great job of answering questions through stories, which makes it easy for some people to understand. But for me, I think the biggest takeaway of this part was, a lot of times we in society, or even with our friends or members at church, people are wealthy. It can be frowned upon by some individuals, but he had some great stories to kind of explain that. And also in particular, he was saying that money isn't physical, that money's spiritual. So that perspective and his view on it was very different, and it was enlightening. What were some of your takeaways, Cam?
Yeah, the one perspective that he shared with us was I asked him kind of his advice or the way that he's approaching, or maybe the advice that he'd have for somebody when they're looking at today's environment, rising interest rates, inflation kind of rampant. And one of the things that he said I thought was really interesting was that us as business owners and investors often look at kind of our cash reserves and trying to get those to outpace inflation. But what he pointed out was focusing on increasing your revenue, right, to outpace inflation. So starting another business, focusing on the business that you have and increasing it by 15, 20% year over year. And you're certainly going to outpace inflation doing that. So I really enjoyed that perspective on it. And I hope you guys do too. He's got a bunch of insight in there. In fact, so much that we are going to break this up into 2 different episodes. And I would suggest you guys take your time and listen to this, is because some of the information he provides are really deep and insightful answers. And so hope you guys enjoy this episode as much as we did.
Cam, but before you send it off, I just wanted to make one comment on your highlight. I think the question you posed was, what should somebody do in the state of this economy? And I at least I interpret the question more of with the recession. And he answered it more of battling inflation, which I think his answer is correct with inflation, but it's also correct for this recession. I mean, people are, you're seeing these layoffs. There's going to be some cutbacks. There's going to be some issues in the economy, and people are going to lose their jobs. And this is another reason why we need to have some passive income, some money that's not relying on our effort. So whether it's now or regardless of inflation or recession, it's important for people to take control of their finances and their investing and start creating some passive income. And if that's something you're interested in learning about, get on a discovery call with us. We'll spend a few minutes talking about your goals, point you in some directions. It is very possible for you to have more passive income than your monthly expenses. But in order to do that, you got to take some action. So maybe start that by getting on a discovery call with us.
Hope you guys enjoy this episode. Again, we're speaking with Rabbi Daniel Lapin. He's known widely as America's rabbi. He's a noted rabbinical scholar, best-selling author, and podcast host. As one of America's most eloquent speakers, his ability to extract practical life principles from the Bible and transmit them in a life-changing, captivating manner has brought thousands of Jews and Christians closer to their respective faiths. Hope you guys enjoy this interview.
Enjoy the episode.
Take care.
Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast, where we teach clients how to build wealth and create passive income without the risk of Wall Street.
Rabbi, welcome back. We are excited to have you back once again. It's been far too long.
I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this for a while. You know, there are a lot of different interview styles, just as there's a lot of different kinds of beer. But some of them are better than others, and it always makes a better interview when everybody enjoys what they're doing, where it's not an arduous ordeal. And it's just fun talking with you guys. It always is, and I envy your clients.
Well, thank you. I too am excited about this, and to be honest, I was kind of sitting back this morning, and I was thinking, why am I so excited? Right. And I started thinking about kind of your message, but mainly kind of the message that I received from other religious leaders throughout my life, and how it pertains to money. And I think the message that I'd gotten most of my life was that money is evil, money is bad. And I think I get excited about speaking with you is because, right, you almost enjoy helping people or hearing about people make money, right? And right,
Um, I I feel that passionately, and I hate the way they call you know, you always hear them saying stinking rich,
yeah, yeah.
and based on my experience, it's a lot worse to be stinking poor.
I agree with you, but I was gonna ask you, right? Is like how do I reconcile those two different messages, right? Is most of the time throughout my life, money, evil is bad, right? Your message is, hey, capital is a benefit or
Yeah.
the result of doing good. Are other religious leaders just missing the message, or what's going on
Okay.
there?
So it's very hard for me to know what other people are saying or why they're saying it.
Hmm.
It's taken me a few decades to get to the point where I'm pretty clear on what I'm saying and why I'm saying it.
Fair enough.
But telling that about other people is really, really hard. So I can't really do that. But I can tell you where the mistake comes from,
Great.
and where it comes from is the mistake of seeing money as something physical. Now, what I mean by that is that there are many different things that add joy and value to our lives. Some of them are physical, and some of them are spiritual. My 12-cylinder BMW Series 7 is very physical, and it brings great joy to my life, particularly when I'm on a wide open road. But then there are other things. A piece of music brings joy to my life. That is spiritual. When I sit down and have a dinner with family members and we have a relaxed time, and you can just feel the warmth surging upwards and spreading out like ripples from a boat, that's spiritual. And spiritual does not mean religious. Spiritual means something that cannot be measured in a laboratory. There are no physical instruments to measure it. And so, yes, I can measure the weight of my car. I can measure the speed of my car. That's no problem. But there is no instrument that can measure whether a piece of music will bring a lump of sadness to my throat or make me feel like dancing. There is no instrument that can measure um, what different family members bring to the spirit and the atmosphere around a table. These things are spiritual. And so the real question is what money is. And while it's true that you can put money on a scale and weigh how much a quarter weighs, and on a sensitive scale, I can even measure the weight of a dollar bill. But none of those measures tell me the slightest thing about the value. And that's one of the ways we know that money is not like a trumpet, which is a physical thing. Money is more like music. And the big difference is that to make a trumpet, I need all the raw materials. I need the metals, and I need ways of shaping it. It's totally physical. But to compose a tune, I need nothing. I just need to sit in a room, and my mind and my heart and my soul come up with a tune, and it's now created. I can even record it on my computer, and I can email it off to my music publisher, and I can get a check or a deposit in my Zelle account, and I can use that to order some food delivered to my door. And so, by the miracle of spiritual and physical transformation, I've converted a purely spiritual phenomenon, namely the tune I came up with, into some steak and fries that got delivered to my front door. So if money is in fact physical, which it is not, but when people make the mistake of thinking it's physical, well then you see, getting it means I took it from somebody else. In the same way that if I make a trumpet, that brass or that gold or whatever I make it out of had to come from somewhere else. With money, the general feeling is that since, and it's a mistake that stems from secularism and from socialism, that all that exists in the world are physical things. And that means that if I have money, I didn't make it, I took it. Because you can't make physical things out of nothing. You have to take something. And so when you make the mistake of thinking that money is physical, well, then anyone who's got it is de facto a person who's engaged in reprehensible behavior. And that's why the old-time pirates of the Caribbean, not the Disney ones, but the 16th and 17th century pirates, when they had completed their careers of many years of happy plundering, they then usually built a church or a cathedral in order to sort of pay society back for what they'd been doing in the first place. And this is one of the things that people say all the time. When a wealthy philanthropist makes a gift, they say, oh, it's so nice to see him giving back to society. I loathe that statement because it suggests that if giving charity is giving back to society, then making money must be stealing from society in the first place, as if I was a pirate. But that's not true, because money is something that can be brought into existence out of nothing. Simply two human beings serving one another creates value. That's all it is. And then, let's imagine, should I go ahead with an example, or is that enough of an answer to your question?
That was excellent, but I'd love to hear an example.
Yeah, no, keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. So look, an example would be, let's imagine for the moment that I am dying to get a pair of sneakers with lights in the heels that flash when you walk.
You're speaking Cameron's language.
Okay, yeah.
They're called Heelys, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, okay, so I really want a pair. So I go to the store and I say, hey, anyway, you guys got a pair of sneakers in my size that flash in the lights? He says, yeah, what's your size? I tell him, comes out, tries me on, and perfect fit. I walk around and it's like the Milky Way going off there. I love it. It's great. And I say to him, and so how much do I owe you? And just for argument's sake, to make the calculation simple, he says $20. I give him $20. I walk out and I'm really happy with my purchase. So now a socialist meets me on the street and says, I see you've got a pair of shoes with lights in the heels that flash. I say, yeah, I'm excited. It's wonderful. He says, can I buy them from you? And I said, well, for how much? And he says, well, you pay $20. I'll give you $20. I said, I don't know what planet you came from, but that's not how it works. I don't want to have to go looking around for another place for no gain. He said, so how much do you want? I said, well, tell me what you're offering. He says, well, would you take $30? And I said, yeah, I don't think so. $35? And I think to myself, if he's at 35, I might be able to push him to 40. And that's a decent profit. And I say to him, you know what? I'll give it to you for 40. And you're going to struggle to find a pair of shoes this good. At that very moment, we have understood what those shoes are worth on my balance sheet.
$40.
And so I paid 20, but what I've got is something that's worth 40 to me. And the proof is I wouldn't part with it for anything less. Now, GAAP accounting rules that were created by the SEC to level the investment playing field have all kinds of regulations about how you price assets on a corporate level. I'm not, I don't have to do that. I can be honest. And the honest value of my shoes, we've just established, is $40. So now the socialist goes to the storekeeper and says, "Hey, this guy walked out of here with a pair of your shoes. Would you like me to help you run after him and have him bring your shoes back?" The storekeeper said, "You come from a weird planet, this socialism place, because I'm as happy as anything." He says, "Why are you happy?" He says, "Because I pay the shoe wholesaler $10 for that pair of shoes. I carry it in inventory for a few weeks. And now instead of a $10 asset, I have $20 in my till." And the socialist walks away scratching his head. He doesn't get it. But you and I can do the math. And what's happened is, simply because Rabbi Daniel Lapin walked into the shoe store, the shoe store is $10 up. He used to have a $10 asset. He's now got $20. And I used to have a $20 bill, but now I've got something worth $40. So I gained 20, and the store owner is up 10. And so the aggregate increase in value in the money supply is $30. Now, what really ought to happen is that the government should now print $30 worth of currency. They don't, of course. They print about $500 of currency. And that's called inflation, and they're destroying everything. They're literally killing the golden goose. However, the point is, and this is really important, this is no rabbinic smoke and mirrors, guys. This is hardcore, real finance. We have literally brought $30 into existence that wasn't here an hour ago. Money has been created. I didn't take it from anybody. Nobody took it from anyone else. What's even better is that the only two parties to this free consensual transaction are both happier than they were before the transaction. And so for the religious among us, if I ask the question, do you think God smiles on this kind of commercial transaction? Obviously, why wouldn't he? Two of his children are better off. They're happier. Absolutely. And there is benefit for everyone else in this society because we've created $30 of value that wasn't there before.
You mentioned in your example, there's some pretty big concepts that were in there. I've got a question that kind of addresses a couple of those.
Please do.
I think right now a lot of people are looking at, right? You mentioned free market, right? Is the opportunity to kind of buy stuff at will and make your own price and stuff, an agreement. But you also touched on government intervention, right? Which is kind of spoiling kind of the golden goose, as you said. I think a lot of people just in everyday lives are looking at kind of this economic climate with fear, right? That intervention is causing fear and turmoil. What type of advice would you have for somebody that's approaching that or looking at that and feeling overwhelmed?
People are very susceptible to hysteria. The French Revolution destroyed a society because of hysteria. In the 1600s, a couple of dozen women were executed in Salem, Massachusetts on the belief that they were witches. In modern day Massachusetts in the 80s, the Amaral family were sent to jail on the say-so of 3-year-old toddlers who claimed that they were torturing them in underground dungeons in the daycare center. The same thing happened in the preschool case in Torrance in California in the 80s. People went to jail because of this hysteria that little children can make credible allegations. It would never happen today, but it did happen then. I say this because right now we're in the grips of another hysteria that is absurd on the face of it, and that is artificial intelligence is going to destroy humanity. Come on, people. I've got 2 words of advice. Unplug it. If you don't like what it's doing, disconnect it. Pull out the battery. And yet, everybody is going nuts. It's complete rubbish. One of the CEOs of Google said, "Oh, this is a bigger discovery than fire." Come on. I mean, your board should have your job for that level of foolishness. It's nonsense. It's just complete hysteria. Artificial intelligence is like autocorrect on Microsoft Word that's working quicker and bigger on a faster computer with access to the internet. That's all it is. It doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have a will. It never will. Calm down. But no, the hysteria is going out there. And you really, I mean, just Google it. You know, Google artificial intelligence, danger to humanity. Elon Musk, you know, he's nobody's fool, but we all have our weak points. And this artificial intelligence has just grabbed a whole lot of people. They love the sensationalism of it. And so they're going nuts. You know, it's just complete rubbish. I say all this because the same thing happens with economic conditions. Having said that, there's no question about it that the Biden administration is destroying the value of the dollar. If you want a prediction, my prediction is that you will see in your lifetime, relatively soon, you will see the dollar ending its position of prominence as the world's reserve currency. The dollar replaced the pound sterling in 1944 at Bretton Woods in New Hampshire after World War II. And since then, for a number of decades, it was very, very good. But eventually, the dollar convertibility was removed, 1972, President Nixon. And that basically took the brakes off, allowing politicians to have loads of fun. Because there's only one thing that I can think of that's more fun than spending other people's money. And the nice thing about inflating the currency is that you don't have to face people at the next election after you've raised their taxes, because it's invisible. Most people don't realize that by simply printing more money than has actually been produced in aggregate throughout the economic system, they are actually stealing from everybody. And so that's a reality, but it's not a reason for panic or hysteria. It's a reason for a very simple calculation. The calculation is, how much is your money losing its value? Well, look, if Grandpa stuck $1,000, behind his books on his bookshelf in 1960, and you find it now, the $1,000 would buy what $8,000 would have bought in his day. So from 1960 to now, the shrinkage of the value of money has been profound. That is accelerating. There's no question about it. And this is one of the reasons that wise people keep only a limited amount of their money in cash, because it is being eroded. How much is inflation now? Do not trust official government figures on inflation where they claim about 8%. It's at least 13%. I'm betting higher than that. But at any rate, 1% a month, means that that at the end of the year, your $100 is worth $88, roughly. So what do? It's very simple. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's very simple. And that is, you have to make that much more money. It's as simple as that. And so you have to be focused on developing alternative revenue streams, or increasing your current revenue stream, or starting a side hustle, whatever it is. This is not a huge problem. Once you know the reality and you understand it and you find the answer, you go ahead and you execute it. But there's no excuse for anybody to be sitting back and not focusing on increasing their revenue right now.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that is why people reach out to us, to be totally honest. Right? People, right? There's things.
Well, that's what I was about to say. That's where you guys come in. Infinite wealth. It says that right behind you. That's exactly what it is. And the answer, yes, infinite wealth is a possibility in the world in which we live. where there still is communication, there's still goodwill, there's still a measure of a fairly large circle of trust. Look, Ghana had the same size economy as South Korea in 1960, literally the same. And now South Korea is nearly 10 times bigger than Ghana. There's only one difference, and that is because South Korea is not tribal and because it's very largely Christian, the circle of trust is huge. In Ghana, people trust family and tribal members. They don't trust anybody. But in the only reason I order from Amazon or from anywhere else online is because I trust. I trust the system. I trust the people who write reviews. I'm aware that there's a certain amount of skullduggery going on, but if I can factor for that, basically I know that if I place an order, in 2 days' time, there's going to be a knock on the door and whatever I ordered will be there. That keeps the economy rolling because me and hundreds of millions of other people have that widespread circle of trust. And so when you're in a society that has that to a large extent, and the United States still does, you really are in a position to be able to increase your revenue to make more money. Infinite wealth is a theoretical possibility. And whether it's by investment or by knowing how to use insurance, the beautiful thing about what you do is that you take people down that path. I admire it. I love that.
Well, thank you. And one of the reasons we invited you on here is because you do a very similar approach, right? Is your education. We've gone to your website and you've got on there the Financial Prosperity Collection, which is over 10 hours of resources. If someone goes to your website and kind of checks that out, what can they find in there?
So I decided to create the most compact program that I was capable of doing that would tell you everything you need to know, but no more, to be able to get going, to figure out what you should be doing, how you should implement it, some of the things that you need to do to expand your circle of contacts, the things to do in order to be more effective and to use your time more effectively, to be focused. All of these things I decided to put inside this 10-hour program. It's a video training program, and you can read all about it. You can even see a little bit of it on my website at rabbidaniellapin.com. What can I say? I mean, it's I'm as excited as could be with it. I love the response I get from people who have implemented it and put it into their daily lives. Yeah, I want to see people making more money. That's good for everybody.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode. Also, check out our website, infinitewealthconsultants.com, to find our podcast along with other additional